A serene morning settles over a luxurious white mansion framed by blooming hydrangeas. Soft morning light glimmers across the edge of a pristine white pillow. Two men lie together in bed, wrapped in silence and rumpled sheets. The brown-haired man reflects on finally attaining a sense of freedom while resting. He slowly rises from the bed as the day begins to brighten. A sudden, sharp tug pulls the bedding back into place. Shen Ruo pulls the brown-haired man back, affectionately calling him a little stutterer and insisting they stay in bed since he slept poorly.
In a playful moment, the black-haired man clings tightly to his startled companion.
Pain flares in the brown-haired man's neck as he realizes he was bitten. He feels as though Shen Ruo claimed him completely during the previous night. The brown-haired man recalls the intense marking and alpha pheromones Shen Ruo used, wondering how a beta could possibly endure such treatment. Tears well in his eyes as he lies exhausted amidst the scattered petals. He winces at the lingering soreness while Shen Ruo rests peacefully beside him.
Shen Ruo remains fast asleep, his expression uncharacteristically calm and serene. The brown-haired man looks back, suspecting that the handsome man's pleas last night were calculated.
A muffled thud sounds as he decides that pillows are the perfect weapon for morning wake-up calls. His hand grips the soft fabric of the pillow with frustrated determination.
Shen Ruo sits up abruptly, angrily asking Chen Chao if he is trying to provoke him.
Chen Chao stares back coldly, reminding him of his promise to let him go. Shen Ruo's gaze turns sharp and intense as he processes the demand. Shen Ruo dismisses the talk of leaving, urging Chen Chao to just stay with him. He pulls Chen Chao into a desperate embrace, hiding his face in his shoulder. Chen Chao feels betrayed, realizing the promises made yesterday are being ignored after years of endurance. Memory shifts to a car ride last month where Shen Ruo and Chen Chao were returning from business.
A white car barrels down the road at a dangerous high speed. The vehicle loses control, crashing through the barrier and plummeting down the mountainside.
As the seatbelt constricts his chest, Chen Chao gasps for air, feeling too weak to move.
Despite the shattering glass and his own injuries, Shen Ruo reaches out for him.
Shen Ruo pulls Chen Chao from the wreckage with the last of his strength.
Though severely injured himself, Shen Ruo prioritized the rescue of his companion.
Bleeding from a head wound, Shen Ruo frantically checks if Chen Chao is hurt, receiving a blunt dismissal in return.
Shen Ruo demands to know why Chen Chao treats him with such disdain when he cares for him so deeply.
A rescuer arrives at the scene as Shen Ruo laments that Chen Chao still hates him. As consciousness fades, Shen Ruo feels the crushing weight of Chen Chao's lack of heart.
The wail of a siren signals the arrival of an emergency ambulance. Shen Ruo lies in critical condition, breathing through a mask on a hospital gurney. At the hospital, a nurse requests a signature for emergency surgery while Chen Chao questions why he was saved. The doctor reports that the patient survived but has suffered brain hemorrhages and a heart condition.
Time passes as sunlight filters through the trees of the city.
Shen Ruo's eyes flutter open, signaling his long-awaited return to consciousness. His first whispered word is a weak call for Chen Chao.
Chen Chao stands by the bed, ready to call for medical assistance now that he is awake.
A firm, bandaged hand reaches out to seize Chen Chao's wrist. Shen Ruo promises to grant Chen Chao his freedom if he agrees to stop causing trouble once recovered. A month has passed since the recovery, yet the promised freedom remains unfulfilled. Chen Chao confronts him, asking why he has gone back on his word.
Shen Ruo's face contorts with a mix of fury and suppressed emotion.
Losing his patience, Shen Ruo tells him to simply leave if that is what he wants. Chen Chao immediately turns to depart, showing no hesitation to be gone.
A sharp, sudden sting of pain stops Chen Chao in his tracks.
Shen Ruo asks why the brown-haired man wants to leave when his legs are so weak. He tells Chen Chao to stay where he is and rest properly. The brown-haired man looks away, his expression filled with fatigue and hidden distress. Soft morning light glimmers across the edge of a pristine white pillow.
Shen Ruo stands over the bed as his companion lies face down in silence.
A sudden rhythmic buzzing sounds as the man's phone begins to vibrate.
Shen Ruo checks the device, wondering if the notification is from his family.
The screen reveals a message threatening to send Chen Chao abroad if this continues.
He reflects on how the old man will never truly let Chen Chao go.
Shen Ruo stares at the device with a look of cold, mounting frustration.
The black-haired man turns away, his hand lingering near the edge of the bed.
Shen Ruo says he is in a good mood and tells Chen Chao to leave.
Chen Chao stares back in stunned silence as a hand grips his jaw firmly.
Shen Ruo announces that all of Chen Chao's belongings are already packed in a suitcase.
The black-haired man walks toward the exit without looking back at his companion. He wishes Chen Chao good luck in his life after they finally part ways. Chen Chao reaches into a drawer, his hand searching for a specific vital item.
He realizes his ID card is missing, suspecting a lie to keep him dependent.
A flicker of resolve appears as he thinks of a different way to survive.
He pulls out a package of Omega suppression patches from the back of the drawer.
Chen Chao believes this will help him break free from the Alpha's oppressive control. He grips the package tightly, seeing it as his only ticket to a future.
The brown-haired man pulls on a dark jacket, ready to leave the room forever.
He mentally declares that his relationship with Shen Ruo is officially at its end.
With a small bag in hand, he finally walks out to find his freedom.
He recalls being a beta who was betrayed and forcibly turned into an omega.
Memory shifts to his time as a prisoner, losing his freedom and social circle.
The sunlit luxury apartment stands as a silent witness to his long confinement. He reflects on how his heat reactions were far worse than any typical omegas. Flushed and trembling, he unbuttons his shirt while struggling through a painful heat cycle. Shen Ruo offers pheromones to calm him, but Chen Chao tells him to get away. Through tears, he blames the man for his condition, while Shen Ruo calls him stubborn. A rough hand seizes his arm, reinforcing the Alpha's dominance over his body.
Shen Ruo claims his actions were for him, yet Chen Chao feels a strange tingling.
The black-haired man claims him by biting down hard on the nape of his neck. Seeking independence, Chen Chao interviews for a dishwashing job paying $8,000 a month.
He reads the recruitment flyer but feels an unsettling sense that something is wrong.
The interviewer looks down as a phone on the counter begins to buzz loudly.
A smartphone screen shows a call from the CEO, signaling Chen Chao's past has arrived.
Chen Chao's eyes widen in terror as he realizes he has been discovered.
The owner makes an excuse to step away, leaving him alone with the incoming call.
The empty restaurant feels like a trap closing in on the frightened man.
Chen Chao bolts for the door as the confused owner asks why he is running.
He sprints down the busy sidewalk, looking over his shoulder in pure desperation.
In his haste to escape, he crashes directly into a tall, silver-haired stranger. The man tells him to be careful as Chen Chao stumbles back from the impact. A firm hand catches him by the waist, preventing him from falling to the ground.
The silver-haired man with glasses looks at him with a puzzled expression.
The stranger stares in surprise as the brown-haired man pulls away with wide eyes.
He shouts a quick apology and continues his frantic run through the city crowd. An artificially modified omega gland is described as the burden he must carry.
Dr. Zhang observes the situation with a calm, analytical gaze through his glasses.
The brick buildings of the city are bathed in the soft glow of morning. Chen Chao reflects on his narrow escape from a trap set by Shen Ruo earlier. He stops at a door, wondering why it has been left slightly open. A soft click sounds as he peeks through the gap with visible hesitation.
Shen Ruo sits waiting with guards, mocking Chen Chao for living in such conditions.
The Alpha asks why he continues to refuse the employment he arranged for him.
Chen Chao asks why he's being harassed, while Shen Ruo claims good intentions.
Chen Chao shouts for the man to stay away and get lost for good.
A tense quiet settles as he remains seated, reeling from the heated rejection.
A predatory wolf shadow looms behind Shen Ruo, signifying his overbearing alpha presence.
Shen Ruo clarifies that he only permitted a temporary departure from the villa.
Chen Chao is left speechless and trembling as the reality of his confinement sinks in. He gasps in pain, clutching his neck as his vision begins to blur. Chen Chao realizes that the Alpha's pheromones are forcibly triggering his sensitive neck glands.
Shen Ruo stands over him, mocking his inability to resist his own biological instincts.
He forces Chen Chao to look at him, tightening his grip on his chin.
Shen Ruo orders his bodyguards to leave the room and maintain a strict guard.
The guard acknowledges the command with a quick nod and departs the scene.
Shen Ruo stops the guard briefly, demanding he hand over a specific item.
Chen Chao voices his deep hatred and tells the black-haired man to step aside. Shen Ruo notes that his stutter returns whenever he is feeling anxious or pressured. Chen Chao is pinned to the sheets, gasping the name of his captor repeatedly. Shen Ruo demands to know how the scent of other alphas ended up on him. Chen Chao tells him to leave, insisting that his private life is none of his business. The alpha stares back with a chilling look, asking if he understands his predicament.
Time passes as the bright sky shifts behind the swaying branches of the trees. The scene transitions to the sunlit upper floors of a modern apartment building.
Chen Chao wakes up in a wide, empty bed with a soft moan.
Sunlight warms the exterior of a quiet city clinic as a new day begins.
A colleague bids farewell to Dr. Zhang, thanking him for his dedicated hard work. The silver-haired doctor pauses, his attention caught by a figure sitting in the shadows.
Chen Chao sits alone on the hospital steps during the late hours of the night.
Dr. Zhang approaches the dejected man, offering to listen to whatever is bothering him.
Recognition flashes through Chen Chao's face as he looks up at the doctor's face.
He shares his history of 5-year isolation and the harassment that has ruined him.
Dr. Zhang asks if it was his friend who manipulated his internal glands.
Chen Chao is shocked, wondering how the doctor could know such an intimate secret.
The doctor explains he is from the information department and spotted the gland abnormalities.
Chen Chao begs for a removal procedure but receives an offer for a suppressor.
The scene shifts to the closed door of a clinical treatment room.
Strapped to a medical chair and blindfolded, Chen Chao prepares for the intervention.
Dr. Zhang warns that the suppressor injection will be extremely difficult to endure.
A faint click sounds as the doctor attaches a wire to the metal collar.
Chen Chao waits in silence, sweat trickling down his face as he braces himself.
He vows to endure anything to escape his situation, despite the doctor's concern. Dr. Zhang prepares the injection of alpha molecules and tells him to be strong. Chen Chao screams in agony as the intense medical stimulation floods his entire body. Dr. Zhang watches the painful process, questioning if the man can survive the treatment.
Chen Chao, blindfolded and strapped down, confirms that he can endure the procedure.
Dr. Zhang decides to increase the medical suppression intensity directly to 90%. A sudden realization hits the brown-haired man as he tells the doctor to wait. Chen Chao gasps in agony as the medical equipment floods his body with intensity. A faint rhythmic beep sounds as the man slumps forward in the medical chair.
A firm hand reaches out and gently unties the brown blindfold from his eyes.
Dr. Zhang tells the trembling man to be good because everything is fine now.
The silver-haired man smiles warmly, asking Chen Chao to become his medical assistant. Several months pass as the scene shifts to the Information Science Department entrance.
A patient enters, explaining to the doctor that his heat cycles are becoming frequent.
Chen Chao, now a confident assistant, invites the man in to have a seat.
The dark-haired patient privately thinks the assistant is handsome and wants to be with him.
He wonders why he hasn't induced heat in the doctor, as omegas usually react together.
Chen Chao explains they share a constitution and he is only a temporary assistant.
He reflects on how he can now suppress his modified glands through sheer willpower.
The brown-haired man snaps on a pair of medical gloves before starting his work.
Chen Chao narrates that he now lives in the hospital rather than his apartment. He notes his rapid progress in mastering the complex tasks of Dr. Zhang's department.
A sudden, sharp knock sounds as Chen Chao looks at his reflection in a mirror.
Chen Chao looks toward the door, wondering if Dr. Zhang has returned to the office. A man bursts in calling someone a scum, leaving the assistant startled and confused.
A blonde alpha accuses his partner of trying to seduce the doctor during his heat.
The aggressive man looms over his cowering companion, threatening to punish him for seduction.
Chen Chao intervenes, telling the angry alpha that the patient is currently in heat.
The blonde man turns his intense, questioning gaze toward Chen Chao, asking if it's him.
The brown-haired man stares back in confusion, asking if the stranger actually knows him.
A hand lets go of the medical coat as the tension reaches a peak. The man claims they were high school classmates and close with Chen Chao's brother. He leans in close, asking if Chen Chao remembers that day in the warehouse.
Chen Chao is baffled, wondering why he has no memory of a younger brother.
He insists he has no brother, while the alpha claims he looks like Zuoki.
A look of cold, piercing fury flashes across the brown-haired man's face. With a sharp click, the alpha man injects a powerful inhibitor into his neck.
Chen Chao claims the alpha is hallucinating from heat and tells him he's mistaken.
The alpha wonders why the doctor is unaffected while Chen Chao orders his isolation.
A somber image of a bruised young man appears as a ghost from the past.
The scene transitions to the sun-drenched hallway of a high-end corporate office building.
Shen Ruo reflects on the marriage contract the Shang family forced upon him earlier.
The sound of steady footsteps echoes as someone approaches a private office door.
A pink-haired figure waits outside the door, projecting an aura of playful affection.
The young man with pink hair smiles brightly, calling out a nickname for Shen Ruo.
A sharp thud sounds as Shen Ruo slams a book down in visible annoyance.
Shen Ruo asks how his visitor could arrive at the company without his prior consent.
The pink-haired man asks why his fiancée is always so cold and uninviting to him.
Shen Ruo ignores him, claiming a terrible headache and demanding he not be bothered.
He reflects on his father's blackmail while his guest notices he has a fever. The black-haired man stands up, telling the visitor to get lost because they smell awful. The visitor is stunned, arguing that everyone else loves the smell of their amazing pheromones.
He threatens to tell Uncle Sheng about Shen Ruo's feelings for someone else.
Shen Ruo snaps, suddenly seizing the pink-haired man's throat as a sharp gasp escapes.
Shen Ruo's eyes narrow with predatory focus as he challenges the audacity of the intruder.
He slams the pink-haired man against the wall, a firm hand tightening around his throat.
A heavy, tense silence follows as the alpha's expression becomes cold and dangerously distant.
Turning away abruptly, he announces his intention to visit a hospital to resolve his condition. Chen Chao remains trapped in a symbolic tangle of thorns as the scene shifts to the city. Soft sunlight filters into a quiet hospital hallway, illuminating the entrance to a private treatment room. Dr. Zhang enters the office, offering a warm apology for making Chen Chao wait so long. He explains that his delay was caused by a hospital director who enjoyed talking too much.
A sharp gasp sounds as the doctor's attention is suddenly caught by a commotion outside. A mother frantically explains that a deceptive surgery has left her child's glands completely out of control. The young girl winces in pain, visibly struggling as her physical condition worsens with every second. Dr. Zhang offers immediate reassurances and prepares to conduct a preliminary medical examination on the spot.
Chen Chao notices a troubling and unexpected anomaly regarding the state of the patient's sensitive glands.
A sudden splash of red appears as the severity of the internal gland rupture is revealed.
The mother asks for a diagnosis while Chen Chao orders the patient to the examination bed. He asks the girl if she recently underwent a dangerous and unauthorized gland modification surgery.
The mother is paralyzed with a look of dawning horror as she listens to the question.
The girl admits she tried to change her nature just to be with another alpha.
Her mother scolds her for attempting such a risky and rare case of gender transformation.
Chen Chao explains the hormonal imbalance and promises a way to temporarily suppress the out-of-control pheromones.
Dr. Zhang calmly prepares for the intervention, pulling on a pair of sterile medical gloves. He gives the final instruction to begin the difficult and necessary medical treatment for the girl.
A series of agonizing screams echo through the closed door as the painful treatment process begins.
A nurse explains that while the process is painful, Dr. Zhang's medical method is safe.
The mother accuses the clinic of being heartless after hearing her daughter's cries of intense pain.
A faint click sounds as the treatment room door finally swings open to the hallway.
Dr. Zhang wheels the exhausted girl out, announcing that the medical treatment is finally over.
The mother gratefully thanks the assistant for comforting her child throughout the entire traumatic ordeal.
The girl offers a sincere and quiet apology to Chen Chao for her earlier rude behavior. A unique cat-shaped charm bracelet glitters brightly as it is held up for closer inspection. The girl offers the charm as a gift, explaining that her family made it specifically for luck.
Chen Chao finds the cat's design strangely familiar as he accepts the gift with visible hesitation.
Dr. Zhang asks his assistant to handle the final discharge instructions for the grateful family.
Chen Chao looks at the cat charm, hoping it will finally bring him some much-needed luck.
Shen Ruo suddenly lunges forward from the shadows, seizing Chen Chao's arm in a crushing grip.
He demands to know where the brown-haired man has been hiding during his months of searching.
Chen Chao demands his former captor leave his workplace and stop settling personal grievances here.
The alpha mocks him, insisting that he can never truly escape his overbearing and absolute control.
He tries to drag Chen Chao away, but the man resists the forced removal with everything.
A sharp gasp sounds as the pink-haired man interrupts their heated argument with a question.
The newcomer identifies himself as Shen Ruo's official fiancé, staring at them with visible irritation. Chen Chao is stunned, realizing that the alpha already has a new fiancé during his absence. A dark shadow of grief and betrayal crosses the brown-haired man's face at the news.
Shen Ruo tells his fiancée to stop interfering in his private business and personal affairs immediately.
With a desperate shove, Chen Chao refuses to ever go back with the man who ruined him. Shen Ruo stumbles backward, clearly shocked and hurt by the physical and emotional rejection.
He questions why he was pushed while his fiancée watches the unfolding scene with confusion.
Chen Chao tearfully begs the alpha to finally stop bothering him and leave his life alone. A heavy silence falls as Shen Ruo gazes at the man's visible distress and flowing tears.
Dr. Zhang steps into the conflict, calmly asking if Chen Chao is okay after the confrontation.
Chen Chao calls out to Dr. Zhang with tears streaming down his face.
Dr. Zhang offers a handkerchief, gently telling his assistant to wipe away the tears.
Shen Ruo glares at the doctor, finding the other alpha's scent incredibly annoying.
Dr. Zhang maintains a calm demeanor as he coolly asks about the patient.
Shen Ruo possessively claims that the man behind the doctor belongs to him.
Dr. Zhang suggests an introduction, but Chen Chao coldly demands the man's departure.
Trembling with visible distress, Chen Chao struggles to remain composed during the confrontation.
Shen Ruo's gaze narrows with irritation as his name is shouted in anger. Dr. Zhang smiles knowingly, noting that the two men supposedly do not know each other.
The doctor threatens to call security while Shen Ruo accuses Chen Chao of disloyalty.
The pink-haired man urges Shen Ruo to leave, citing his fever and clinic needs. As he is led away, Shen Ruo issues a final, dark warning to Chen Chao.
A heavy, unspoken tension lingers as Shen Ruo is escorted from the hospital.
The pink-haired man complains about the pace as they walk down the quiet corridor.
Shen Ruo reflects bitterly on how he stayed by Chen Chao's side despite the resentment. A memory reveals Shen Ruo's past attempts to care for the then-injured assistant.
His companion notices his flushed face and offers support as they make their way out.
Shen Ruo grinds his teeth in a moment of internal fury and physical suffering.
A sudden heavy thud echoes through the darkness as someone's strength finally gives out.
Back in the office, Chen Chao wonders how his former captor found him. He gazes at the cat charm, doubting its ability to bring him any luck. Dr. Zheng suddenly leans in, playfully asking what his assistant is looking at so intently. The doctor apologizes for the scare and mentions his lonely desire to visit a zoo.
Chen Chao expresses surprise that a kind man like Dr. Zhang has no friends.
Dr. Zhang admits his busy schedule and invites Chen Chao to accompany him to the zoo. Chen Chao offers a soft smile, agreeing to go if their workload allows it.
A lighthearted moment is cut short by a sudden, sharp click sounding from the doorway.
Sensing danger, Dr. Zhang immediately pulls Chen Chao into a protective, firm embrace. Chen Chao looks toward the dark window, caught off guard by the doctor's closeness. Dr. Zhang notes that a suspicious patient was seen taking photos earlier that morning. Chen Chao ponders if the mysterious photographer returned to the hospital for a follow-up.
The quiet hallway outside the room appears completely deserted in the dim evening light.
Dr. Zhang promises to review surveillance as Chen Chao thanks him for his protection. They share a playful goodbye before Dr. Zhang suggests his assistant return to the dorms. Chen Chao waves farewell, heading out into the night after a long day.
Alone now, Dr. Zhang questions the true purpose of the person secretly taking photographs.
Chen Chao walks through the shadowy streets, his mind occupied by the strange morning events. He recalls the mention of a younger brother, wondering if the photographer holds the key. A loud oof sounds as Chen Chao accidentally bumps into someone in the dark alleyway. The pink-haired man rubs his head, indignantly questioning who would dare to collide with him. He recognizes Chen Chao and lashes out, blaming him for Shen Ruo's serious illness. The fiancé continues his tirade, labeling Chen Chao a troublemaker and issuing a sharp warning. He threatens that the Shang family will take action if anything happens to his partner. Driven by worry, Chen Chao arrives at room 306 to check on Shen Ruo's condition. He slowly pushes the door open, hesitant to enter the room of his former tormentor. The curtains are pulled back to reveal a brightly lit yet completely vacant hospital bed.
A sharp gasp escapes as Chen Chao realizes the bed is empty and is grabbed.
Oh no, the assistant panics as he feels a familiar and overwhelming presence behind him. A loud thud sounds as Shen Ruo pins the man, revealing he lured him there. Shen Ruo wears a dark, triumphant smile as he looks down at his cornered prey. Chen Chao wonders if the alpha used his fiancée to stage a calculated performance earlier. Shen Ruo questions the brown-haired man's fading scent and suspects the doctor marked him. He demands the truth about their relationship while Chen Chao begs for his freedom. The alpha promises release only if his demands for an explanation are finally met.
Shen Ruo threatens to mark the man's gland by force if he remains silent.
Chen Chao reflects on his traumatic history of being treated as a mere venting tool. He laments the 5 years spent trapped under the weight of an obsessive affection. The alpha issues a final, aggressive ultimatum for Chen Chao to speak up or suffer. A sharp slap sounds as Chen Chao strikes the man and calls him a bastard. With a forceful shove, Chen Chao orders the overbearing alpha to leave his presence. Shen Ruo hurls insults at the retreating man as he flees toward the exit. A loud click sounds as the door is grabbed and the alpha threatens his safety. Chen Chao rejects the demand to return home, citing the man's inhumane treatment of him. A quick clock sounds as the assistant forcefully removes his hand from the handle. Chen Chao considers fleeing the city to avoid his pursuer, but hesitates to leave the doctor. He decides to stay and properly thank Dr. Zhang for his unwavering kindness and support. Sunlight filters through the trees as the story shifts forward to the next morning. Dr. Zhang wakes his assistant, noticing his cold hands after he slept at the clinic. Chen Chao lies about his reasons while secretly fearing a confrontation at his own dorm. The doctor expresses genuine concern, asking if his assistant is facing any hidden personal troubles. Chen Chao deflects the inquiry with a smile while the doctor offers his future help.
A loud, demanding shout for Dr. Zhang echoes from the clinic's hallway entrance.
An angry old man with a cane enters the office accompanied by a concerned nurse. Dr. Zhang greets the visitor warmly, inquiring about the health of the man's sick wife. The man seizes the doctor's collar, blaming the prescribed medicine for causing physical sores. He accuses Dr. Zhang of being a fraud and threatens to involve the local police. The visitor repeats his aggressive accusations, detailing the sudden skin reactions his spouse experienced. Shen Ruo sits comfortably with his dog, maintaining a calm and detached physical presence. Chen Chao tries to intervene and de-escalate the conflict by asking the man to calm down. A sharp smack sounds as the old man indignantly bats away the assistant's reaching hand. He continues his public tirade, labeling the doctor heartless for selling supposedly fake medications. Dr. Jang calmly explains potential dietary triggers and asks about any consumption of stimulating foods.
Chen Chao watches in awe as the doctor professionally explains allergic reactions to various foods.
Dr. Jang outlines a treatment plan while the assistant continues to admire his professional poise.
He takes full responsibility for the condition and promises a deeper examination later that evening.
The old man finally departs the office as the doctor watches him walk away silently.
A small sigh of relief escapes as the doctor celebrates finally handling the difficult visitor.
Chen Chao checks on the doctor's emotional state after such a sudden and intense confrontation. Dr. Jang apologizes for the scene while his assistant expresses deep admiration for his skill. The doctor admits the praise makes him happy as the assistant reaffirms his professional excellence. Dr. Jang suggests reviewing surveillance to identify the person who was secretly filming them earlier.
Chen Chao thanks him as two mysterious men watch them from the shadows of the hallway.
The spies maintain their surveillance, clutching a phone and watching the duo with intense focus.
On the other end of the line, Shen Ruo asks if the plan is progressing.
He grows furious upon learning the doctor managed to defuse the staged medical crisis so easily. Shen Ruo demands to know Chen Chao's current attitude toward the rival alpha at the clinic. The black-haired man listens to the report with a cold and calculating expression of jealousy.
A loud crash sounds as the man slams his phone down in a fit of rage.
He reflects on his secret efforts to protect the man and resents the doctor's interference.
Shen Ruo vows to reclaim his property while the clinic returns to its quiet, professional routine.
Chen Chao informs Dr. Jang that he needs to use the restroom, and the doctor calmly agrees.
Standing in the quiet hallway near the restroom, Chen Chao wonders who is calling his phone.
A sudden, sharp realization hits as Chen Chao answers the call and hears a familiar voice. A demanding message appears on the screen, ordering Chen Chao to return to yesterday's hospital room. Bewildered and distressed, Chen Chao asks the caller what on earth they are talking about.
Shen Ruo issues a 10-minute ultimatum, threatening to target the doctor if his demands aren't met.
A final, sharp click sounds as the line goes dead, leaving Chen Chao in stunned silence. Panic sets in as Chen Chao fears the trouble his former captor might bring upon Dr. Jang. Haunting memories of past abuse resurface while Dr. Jang watches his assistant from the shadows. Seeing Chen Chao walk away from the restroom, the doctor decides to follow him out of concern.
Chen Chao stands hesitantly before the door of room 306, dreading the confrontation waiting inside.
A heavy silence fills the air as the young man prepares to enter the lion's den. A quick click sounds as Chen Chao enters the chow room and is immediately pulled into a tight embrace.
A soft escapes him as he is pressed firmly against a broad, black-clad chest.
Shen Ruo announces it is time for lunch and expects Chen Chao to accompany him for the meal.
Chen Chao remains completely silent, his face hidden as he stands rigidly in the alpha's grasp.
Shen Ruo questions why he's just standing there and demands that he stay with him properly.
A massive, elaborate feast sits untouched on the table while a tense silence hangs over the pair. Chen Chao flatly tells Shen Ruo that he wants no more involvement with him ever again. Shen Ruo grabs his arm, ordering him not to say such things as his temper begins to flare. The alpha gestures to the table, claiming he brought everything Chen Chao likes and demands he sit. Looking the man in the eye, Chen Chao firmly refuses to comply with his demands. Shen Ruo mocks the doctor and offers to buy his way into a more professional medical school.
Chen Chao realizes he's been spied on while the alpha claims the doctor is simply deceiving him. Shen Ruo claims only he can provide safety and resents that his partner lives in a dorm.
A sharp smack sounds as Chen Chao forcefully pulls his hand away from the alpha's grip.
He declares he is happy with his job and refuses to be treated like a caged bird.
Shen Ruo claims his actions are for Chen Chao's good, but the younger man rejects his provocation.
Chen Chao bitterly calls himself a remodeled Omega who is unworthy of a noble master like him. Growing increasingly desperate, Shen Ruo shouts for Chen Chao to listen to what he has to say. A sudden, rough shove sends the assistant reeling as the physical confrontation escalates between them.
Chen Chao stands with his head bowed, the weight of the situation visible in his slumped shoulders.
Shen Ruo claims that many things are not what they seem as he tries to explain himself. The assistant gasps as he is grabbed again, unable to escape the alpha's overwhelming physical presence.
Shen Ruo pleads with him, claiming he cared for him for years and begs him not to leave.
The alpha promises to explain the engagement situation in detail if Chen Chao will just stay. With tears in his eyes, Chen Chao begs the man to finally just let him go.
Shen Ruo's expression remains cold and possessive as he looms over the trembling man in the doorway.
A pained sounds as Shen Ruo roughly takes hold of Chen Chao's face to force his attention. Chen Chao continues to weep, pleading for his freedom as he is held in a crushing grip.
A muffled oomph sounds as Shen Ruo forces a kiss, pinning the smaller man against the wall.
The physical aggression intensifies as Shen Ruo refuses to let go of his struggling prey.
A calm, authoritative voice cuts through the tension, commanding the alpha to let the man go.
Dr. Zhang stands in the doorway, his eyes narrowed behind his glasses as he faces the intruder.
Looking past the alpha, Dr. Zhang gently asks Chen Chao if he is all right.
Shen Ruo sneers at the doctor, mocking him for meddling in their private affairs during a crisis.
Chen Chao looks up in shock, stunned that the doctor actually followed him to the room.
Dr. Zhang warns that these aggressive tactics will only push Chen Chao further away from him. Shen Ruo demands the doctor leave immediately, claiming this matter has nothing to do with him.
Dr. Zhang smiles knowingly, revealing that Chen Chao is his boyfriend and his matters are his own.
Dr. Zhang stands protectively beside his assistant as they face the alpha's lingering presence. Behind his glasses, the doctor's eyes narrow with a sharp and calculating intensity.
Stunned by the bold declaration, Shen Ruo demands to know exactly what was just said.
Dr. Zhang explains that Chen Chao chose him to escape the alpha's instability and demands he be left alone.
Heartbroken and desperate, Shen Ruo asks the assistant if he truly intends to abandon him forever. Shen Ruo warns about the medical risks of the assistant's condition, while the doctor insists on respect.
Chen Chao touches the doctor's arm, suggesting there is no more need for words as they prepare to leave. As they walk away, the alpha's desperate shout for his partner echoes down the long hospital hallway. Left in isolation, Shen Ruo fears being abandoned again while a sharp gasp sounds as he clutches his chest. A heavy, oppressive atmosphere descends as the alpha collapses, overwhelmed by a sudden and intense physical agony. Panic erupts as attendants call for a doctor, fearing the young master is suffering a heart attack. A somber flashback reveals school staff gossiping about a boy's mother's suicide and his father's immediate betrayal. The young boy walks away in silence as the adults lament his tragic fate before returning to their work. From the shadows of a brick wall, a group of bullies watches the isolated student cross the schoolyard. The sound of approaching footsteps signals trouble as the bullies close in on their solitary target.
Young Shen Ruo stops and looks up with eyes that are cold, empty, and filled with quiet resentment.
The bullies mock his grieving expression, demanding to know who he thinks he is trying to impress. They label him a mute, illegitimate child as they roughly seize his collar, escalating their verbal abuse. The boy remains defiantly silent, his face bruised as he stares down his tormentors with unyielding hatred. One of the bullies expresses his pure annoyance at the boy's persistent and cold attitude.
A heavy punch lands with a dull thud, sending the young boy reeling against the building's brick exterior.
A sudden, authoritative shout for them to stop rings out, catching the aggressors completely off guard. A brown-haired student with bandages on his face arrives, demanding an explanation for their cruel bullying. A quiet pause in the unfolding drama provides a brief moment of narrative transition. From beneath his messy hair, the young Shen Ruo stares up in bewilderment at his unexpected protector. The bullies recognize the newcomer as a top student from another class and question his interference. Chen Chao firmly declares his intolerance for those who bully others without any justification. The lead bully laughs mockingly, reminding the student of his own history of being beaten and belittling his heroism. Young Shen Ruo warns against meddling, but a sharp smack sounds as a sudden strike hits the bully's face. The bully's companion rushes to check on him while the boys stand in a tense, violent standoff. Grabbing Chen Chao's hand, the young Shen Ruo issues a single, urgent command for them to run. The bully screams in rage, clutching his bruised face and demanding compensation for the injury to his nose. With a murderous glare, the aggressor looms over his prey, refusing to let the confrontation end. A pained sounds as Chen Chao is thrown to the ground, coughing from the force of the assault. Shen Ruo steps in front of the fallen boy, ordering the bully to leave his friend alone immediately. Years later, Shen Ruo wakes in a hospital bed to the frantic calls of a concerned companion. The pink-haired boy shouts the news to the hallway, announcing that the young master is finally awake. Shen Ruo's father enters with a woman in black, expressing outrage that a simple fever nearly proved fatal. Looking up with clear resentment, Shen Ruo coldly questions why his father is even present. The woman in black defends the father's arrival, urging the son to speak with more respect to his parent. Shen Ruo rejects their presence entirely, flatly ordering everyone to leave him in peace. The woman expresses confusion over how his stable condition could deteriorate so drastically in just one day. The pink-haired boy points the blame at Chen Chao, claiming the encounter yesterday caused the sudden crisis. Shen Ruo's eyes flare with anger as he warns the others to watch their words regarding the assistant. The father explodes in a rage, demanding an immediate end to the relationship with the poor student. The father rants about the forbidden contact while the woman tries to calm him for his own health.
She suggests that the assistant has simply confused the young man, and they must persuade him to see reason.
The father berates his son for wasting time while business projects suffer, but the alpha defends his partner. The woman suggests delegating the company's burdens to others as the father stares in silent, simmering fury.
Uncle Shang issues a final ultimatum. Cut ties immediately, or he will ensure Chen Chao disappears forever. Looking at his father with clear frustration, Shen Ruo asks if he really has to be forced in this manner.
The father declares that unless he dies, his son will never be with Chen Chao, while a loud thud sounds as the pink-haired boy listens from the hallway and resolves to find the assistant for some answers.
A bald security guard in the surveillance room points to a monitor, explaining that this is the recording from outside the information department from the previous night.
Focusing on the screen, Dr. Zhang realizes that the person on the footage is definitely the same individual.
Chen Chao wonders why he was being filmed, while Dr. Zhang asks him if he knows who the man is. The assistant claims he only saw the man once yesterday morning, leading the doctor to suggest it might be a forgotten classmate from his past. Staring into the distance with a troubled expression, Chen Chao repeats the word classmate to himself as if trying to trigger a memory. A hazy vision from the past shows a fanged blonde boy smiling warmly at a younger Chen Chao.
Another sudden memory of a warehouse floor and figures standing over someone causes Chen Chao to look away in distress.
A flashback reveals a brown-haired student asking the red-haired Suoki about his brother's actions while being warned not to mess up a victim's face to avoid future trouble.
A sharp pain suddenly strikes the assistant's head, causing him to clutch his hair in confusion and agony.
Noticing his distress, Dr. Zhang places a steadying hand on Chen Chao's shoulder and asks what is wrong with him.
Feeling a sudden wave of illness, Chen Chao asks the doctor if he can return to his room to rest for a while.
Dr. Zhang agrees immediately, acknowledging the heavy workload and suggesting that his assistant takes the rest of the afternoon off to recover. Chen Chao looks at him with concern, questioning if the doctor will be able to handle all the work alone.
Insisting that health is far more important, the doctor walks with his assistant through the hospital corridor.
The doctor explains he wanted to accompany him home but can't find a shift replacement, promising to visit the dormitory after he finishes work.
Placing a gentle hand on the younger man's head, Dr. Zhang tells him to wait for his arrival.
Chen Chao offers a soft smile and confirms that he will wait as instructed. Reaching the hospital dormitory, the assistant continues to clutch his head as the intense pain refuses to subside.
He wonders about the source of those fleeting images and begins to question if he is actually suffering from amnesia.
A heavy sigh escapes him as Chen Chao pours himself a glass of water in the quiet of his room.
He stares out the window at the cityscape, lost in a daze as his thoughts continue to swirl.
A sudden, translucent vision of a smirking Shen Ruo looms behind him as he drinks, heightening his sense of unease.
A brief moment of silence hangs over the room as the light shifts across the walls. His eyes widen in sudden shock as he realizes he is being overwhelmed by a familiar and terrifying physical sensation.
A sharp crash sounds as the glass slips from his hand and shatters into pieces on the floor.
Frantically searching through his cabinets, Chen Chao desperately wonders where he misplaced his suppressants. He notes the danger of an Omega being out during heat and realizes he must find someone to help him quickly.
His trembling hand reaches out for support as the room begins to spin.
Crouched on his balcony and flushed with heat, Chen Chao frantically types on his phone with shaking fingers. The screen shows a message sent to the doctor reporting that his heat has started and begging for suppressants to be delivered. 15 minutes pass in silence as Chen Chao lies on his bed, letting out a pained while wondering why the doctor has not replied. He tosses restlessly until a sudden, loud knock at the door makes him sit up and wonder if it is finally Dr. Zhang. Listening closely, he realizes the knocking is far too heavy and aggressive to be the doctor, suspecting someone else is outside. The pink-haired boy pushes his way inside, demanding to be let in while Chen Chao frantically tries to shut the door. Looking around with disdain, the visitor mocks the small room and asks why the assistant is wrapped in a blanket like a strange person. The visitor suddenly stops, wondering what the strange smell is as he begins to feel weak and hot, questioning if he is entering heat himself. Chen Chao confirms the situation while the pink-haired boy expresses total shock that an Omega doesn't have suppressants on hand. Outside in the hallway, a bodyguard stands by the door while the pink-haired boy speaks from within the room. The bodyguard walks away to answer a phone call while an unknown man watches the scene from around a corner. The brown-haired man smiles to himself while inside the room, the pink-haired boy complains about how long the delivery is taking.
Chen Chao tells him to be patient as the pink-haired boy asks for an update on his current relationship with Shen Ruo.
Shouting an accusation, the pink-haired boy claims the alpha had a heart attack because of him and asks if he is just toying with his feelings. Chen Chao reveals that Shen Ruo modified his glands to turn him from a beta into an omega, declaring that he should be the one in pain.
The visitor finds the claim impossible, but Chen Chao tells him to ask the alpha himself as a heavy knocking sounds again.
Assuming it is his assistant with the medicine, the pink-haired boy lets out a relieved sigh and asks Chen Chao to open the door.
Looking down at the floor, the assistant realizes he has absolutely no strength left to stand up or move. Chen Chao stares blankly with a flushed face, completely overwhelmed by his physical state and unable to respond.
A soft thud sounds as Chen Chao falls forward, collapsing directly into the arms of Shen Ruo as the alpha enters the room.
Waking from his unconscious state, Chen Chao opens his eyes as the world slowly comes back into focus. Holding the younger man close, Shen Ruo expresses deep relief that Chen Chao has finally returned to his senses.
Pulling away in a sudden panic, Chen Chao questions the state of his heat and demands to know what was done to him. The alpha explains that he only gave him a temporary mark to soothe his suffering after seeing him faint.
Shrinking away from the touch, the assistant asks how he found his home, leading the alpha to explain he met Gao Shi's assistant while searching for him.
Looking at him coldly, Chen Chao asks why he isn't with his fiancée instead, since the pink-haired boy's heat has also flared up.
He rejects the alpha's advances, declaring he won't be an extramarital affair, while Shen Ruo desperately insists he will only ever marry him. Shen Ruo pleads for another chance, vowing that he has already decided in his heart to spend his lifetime with Chen Chao.
A click sounds as a door opens and Chen Chao shouts for help upon seeing Dr. Zhang enter the room.
Rushing to the doctor's side, the assistant listens as the silver-haired man apologizes for just now seeing the message and rushing over.
Recognizing Shen Ruo, the doctor informs him that his family is causing a scene at the hospital looking for him and orders him to leave immediately.
He warns that the family will soon find this location through surveillance, leaving the alpha staring in a silent, tense standoff.
Shen Ruo turns away in silence, leaving the two men standing together in the quiet room.
Looking back one last time, the alpha offers to protect him if he comes along, but Chen Chao flatly repeats his demand for him to leave.
A sting of emotional pain flashes across his face as the alpha walks out, declaring that he will never truly give up on his partner.
Expressing concern for his safety, Dr. Zhang suggests that the assistant moves into his place tomorrow to avoid further trouble.
Chen Chao reflects on how the considerate doctor puts his mind at ease, yet he finds himself hesitating for reasons he cannot explain.
He thanks the doctor for the kind invitation and promises to give the offer serious consideration tonight.
At a crowded bar, Gao Shi drinks alone in a fury, questioning why his fiancée sent an assistant to take him home instead of coming himself.
A stranger approaches the pink-haired boy with a predatory greeting, but Gao Shi aggressively tells the man to go away. Disgusted by the man's unpleasant pheromone scent, the boy pushes him away and ducks into the Omega restroom to escape.
As the boy tries to hide, a hand places a cleaning sign outside the door while a sinister shadow enters the room. Gao Shi leans over the sink, unaware of the danger closing in from behind. Startled, the boy spins around to find the bar harasser has followed him in, demanding to know who he is and telling him to get out. Clutching his face in discomfort, the boy complains about the overwhelming and offensive scent of the low-end alpha.
The aggressor mocks his scent and threatens to forcibly mark him for life, causing the boy to scream out for help.
A click sounds as a red-haired man enters, coldly telling the harasser to get lost and pointing out the cleaning sign on the door.
The harasser claims he is just playing with his wife, but the pink-haired boy frantically exposes the lie and the attempt to forcibly mark him. Declaring that forced marking is a crime, the newcomer delivers a sudden strike that sends the harasser to the floor before ordering him to flee.
The defeated man scrambles out of the room while the red-haired savior stands calmly by the boy's side.
As the rescuer turns to leave, the pink-haired boy calls out to express his deep gratitude for being saved.
Looking back with a neutral expression, the man dismisses the thanks, claiming he simply responded to a cry for help.
He asks if the boy is a wealthy young master, leading Gao Shi to introduce himself as the son of the Gao Group's president and promise a reward.
Blushing with embarrassment, the boy introduces himself as Gao Shi and mentions that he is also the fiancé of the prominent Shen Ruo.
The man holds up a phone and asks if he knows the person on the screen, causing the boy to stare in total confusion.
Gao Shi's eyes widen in absolute shock as he processes the information revealed on the device.
The scene shifts to the city street where Chen Chao walks alone, lost in his own thoughts.
A man in an orange hoodie stops him, greeting him with a familiar tone and questioning if it is really him after all this time.
The stranger expresses surprise that he has become a doctor and notes how well he seems to be flourishing. Looking at the man with clear hostility, Chen Chao demands to know his identity and why he persists in bothering him.
The man laughs, claiming that faking amnesia is useless because he has already told the assistant's younger brother, Drochi, about his current situation.
A flood of painful memories returns, showing images of a woman and child being told they are entering a life of wealth. Visions of a crying child accusing others of breaking up his family flash before him, along with an image of a younger Shen Ruo. Doubled over in agony, Chen Chao clutches his head in a static-filled haze, wondering if these visions are truly his forgotten past.
Gasping that he has to get to work, the assistant rushes away from the stranger and the overwhelming weight of his returning memories.
Sitting at his desk, the assistant struggles to catch his breath as his mind remains a chaotic mess of half-remembered images.
He answers a call from Dr. Zhang, who explains the dean sent him away for a study and asks his assistant to help the other doctors. Slumping onto his desk with a heavy sigh, he decides to wait until the doctor returns before discussing his worsening headaches.
A brief montage shows his busy morning caring for patients, though he notes with relief that the afternoon has finally become quieter.
A tap-tap of footsteps sounds as the red-haired man from the bar rescue enters the office, and the assistant looks up to tell his visitor to come in. A red-haired man enters the office and asks Chen Chao if he is the doctor on duty.
I'm a medical assistant. The doctor isn't here right now. You can tell me about your condition, the assistant replies, while privately noting the visitor's scary gaze and a strange sense of familiarity. Looking around the room, the red-haired man asks if this is the pheromone department. Yes, Chen Chao replies, wondering why the visitor seems so confused and if he is genuinely here for treatment. Taking a seat, the red-haired man claims his glands do not feel right, prompting Chen Chao to ask where exactly he feels pain. The visitor explains he has felt uncomfortable ever since smelling the assistant's pheromones. Sorry, maybe my glands are a bit unusual, Chen Chao replies with a nervous smile.
The red-haired man asks if the assistant is an omega, leaving Chen Chao in a state of absolute shock.
The man asks if the glands on his neck were marked by an alpha. Chen Chao grows wary, suspecting the stranger is looking for trouble despite his normal-smelling pheromones.
Leaning in close, the man tells the doctor not to look so afraid because he isn't going to eat him. A heavy door opens as Shen Ruo enters, demanding to know why Drochi is there.
Drochi offers a casual greeting while Chen Chao realizes this is the younger brother mentioned by the stranger. A painful memory of a crying child accusing others of ruining a family flashes through his mind. Drochi stands in the center of the office and confirms to himself that the person he came to see is truly him.
Standing back-to-back with the intruder, Shen Ruo warns Drochi to never appear in front of Chen Chao again or he will not be let off easily.
Drochi mockingly tells the alpha not to stare and claims he only came to see his former brother. He gives the alpha a light pat on the shoulder before walking out of the clinic.
Shen Ruo steps closer to the desk and asks the assistant if the visitor caused him any trouble.
No, we just talked a bit. Why are you here? Chen Chao asks. The alpha explains he simply wanted to see him and insists that the assistant call him if anything similar happens again. Shaking his head, the assistant asks what his brother's visit has to do with the alpha. He rests his head in his hand, realizing that Shen Ruo seems to have always known about his younger brother.
A vision from the past reveals that the young master once protected him from bullies with his family's influence. They became close friends and shared a happy year together during high school.
The memory of a blushing, smiling youth from years ago fills the assistant's mind with warmth.
Looking downcast, Chen Chao wonders how their relationship ever managed to turn into its current painful and complicated state.
Shen Ruo asks when the assistant gets off work, offering to pick him up for a drive. No, I prefer to stay at home and rest, Chen Chao flatly replies.
Looking hesitant, the alpha agrees to let him work and says they will talk later that evening.
Letting out a heavy sigh as the door shuts, Chen Chao admits to himself that he still cannot help but hate the alpha.
Once the workday concludes, the assistant spends a quiet moment organizing the medical files on his bookshelf. With his bag slung over his shoulder, Chen Chao heads toward the exit of the hospital. A click sounds as the door opens, and Shen Ruo is waiting to repeat his offer to take the assistant for a drive.
Startled, Chen Chao turns to him and asks if he didn't already say he wasn't going.
The alpha pleads with him, explaining that he already booked a restaurant and the deposit will be wasted if they do not go together.
What should I do? The doctor's not here and I can't shake him off, Chen Chao wonders. A series of scenes shows them driving in a red car, sharing a dinner, and the alpha attempting to win a prize at a crane game.
The two men stand together on a wooden pier, looking out over the city skyline reflected in the moonlit water.
A sigh escapes as Chen Chao reflects on a memory of them sitting together as youths. He thinks they could still be good friends now if the alpha hadn't committed those later actions.
Looking at the assistant, Shen Ruo struggles with a sudden desire to kiss him. Chen Chao asks if they are about to disembark, and the alpha softly confirms as he leans in.
Chen Chao shrinks back as Shen Ruo suddenly asks if they can start over.
The alpha swears to treat him well from now on, leaving the assistant looking stunned and conflicted.
The distance between them disappears as they lean in for a close, intimate moment.
Amidst a flurry of blooming white flowers, Shen Ruo pulls Chen Chao into a passionate kiss.